rehearsal or reply, that kind of information. Then we'll go through the VisualDRG version 5 main function, the grouping, the searching of diagnosis and procedure codes, weights, price calculation, logic, weight tables, datasets, and some other support functions. Then, as said, you can ask questions while my presentation, and please, Arna, if I don't notice someone raising his or her hand, please shut out,
yeah.
so I will notice it. And the training material will be shared, and also this is recorded, and we can share the recording afterwards. So I'll skip the NuDRG basics. What is it? It's some pages about that. Then we have the input specifications that should be known to you. Then we have what is in output, the DRG, MDC, and return code. Some use cases of DRG, use cases of VisualDRG in particular, and some overview from you Iceland.is pages about the about DRG system and its uses in Iceland. But let's start with VisualDRG in general and the version 5 in particular. So background and justification for the change. Most of you, I guess, have already used version 4 for some time, at least months, or someone even for years. And we have made now the user interface change to VisualDRG because it has been without any major changes for a long time, and it's a little bit old-fashioned looking. And also the new version is designed by professional user experience and graphical designers, unlike the earlier one, but a little more technical design by the development team and developers. The functionality remains essentially the same. Some functions are used in slightly different places or menus, but in essence everything is there that was in VisualDRG and still is in VisualDRG version 4. And in the following I'll show you some page-by-page change descriptions, and we'll go through the different functionalities one by one. And here is an example from the grouping page. What does it look like in the old version, the version 4 on the left hand side? For example, the menu and buttons are here, and then in the new version there's some changes in the layout of the fields and in the colors and positioning of the menu, and some helper functionalities. Some notes in general before I go to the more details. So it is generally available for all users, and it has been for several months, and I'm happy to see that even some Icelandic users, there are some around 10 users who has already used the version 5, even though most of the users it's still for version 4, and that's also from the other countries. It has been generally available, but the version 4 is the main version that has been used. And as of today, the addresses of the services are visualdrg5.logex.com is the new version, and we recommend to use it now. And still the visualdrg.logex.com is still the old version that you can still access by at least end of May. But then
you see, can I just add one in Icelandic? Hlekkurinn á nýju útgáfuna á heimasíðu landlæknis undir VisualDRG. Það sem hlekkurinn á VisualDRG, það á nýja VisualDRG. Það gæti þurft að endurnýja það ef þið hafið vistað það hjá okkur í favorites í browsernum. Þannig að bara þið vitið af því, þið nálgist hann þar. I'm just telling them about the link on the webpage. We have the new link on the webpage.
That's
so
good.
You see.
Yeah. And after May the 25th, the old link will be translated so that it will start version 5 even if you use it. The new link will be in use. It's an alternative. Those are exactly the same. It doesn't matter which one you use. It's the same application equal to the previous one, and all the user accounts and passwords are the same. And then for short-term transition period, we'll keep the old version as a backup, but it will be visualdrg4.logex.com. It's not recommended to use. It's just if something happens in the transition, or if you have some very good reason to use the old version. If there's something that isn't in the new version, then let us know. But everything should be there in slightly different places. Then about the roadmap from version 4 to version 5. So it was available for limited test use starting last year, and now during this spring it has been from version 5.1 to general availability, and we have extended the functionality gradually 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and now we have 5.4. And the version 5.4 is the version that includes all the functions equally with version 4. And now it will be replaced then late May 25th, and as I said, VisualDRG.4.logex.com will be side by side for short transition period for you to use. And also this is an important date because then we'll copy all the user accounts and passwords from version 4 to version 5. So if you have changed your password in version 4, you can use the same password in version 5 without any modifications. So how to use it? There's a login page, and if you go to that address, so visualdrg5.logex.com, or later after the change, just visualdrg.logex.com, you end up in the login page. And there your username is equal to the work email, and the password is set for you. You can set it by yourself when you have received your invitation to use VisualDRG. Usually you get a mail link that says that you have granted a VisualDRG account, and then here's a link from where there you can set your password. There are some other things. For example, if you'd like to change or you have forgotten your password, you use this one, and it sends you, as in many other web applications, a mail to your email box, and then there's a link to reset your password. Alternatively, you can ask for a short-term link that allows you to log in without any password. It's convenient if you are very hurry and wouldn't like to change and hassle with password. And then you can also create an account if your mail account is in allowed Icelandic specific email domains. Then you have here some service information. For example, we have just updated to version 4.5.4. Then there are links to the contact information. You can ask for technical support if you cannot change your password or have problems with your other functionalities. And we are happy to receive also feedback in a sense that if you think that you would like to have some changes or new functions, we'll of course listen to your voice. And still, for a short period, there's a link also for the old production. And then you enter your credentials and you will be logged in. Then let's go to the general layout, and that's then the version 5. So if we go then to the version 5, it looks like this. So it's slightly different. Now the main menu, it's on the left-hand side of the screen, not on the top. And here is a menu button. When you click on that, it opens the menu and it links to the main functionalities that are grouping, logic, weight tables, datasets, downloads, and status information. And from here, you can go to your user information and user guide also. I'll show those later. And there's a path where you are, the main. You can click from here to return to the home. Then the page, you can also change it from here. So the selections from here and here are the same. And from here, you can change the version which you are using. But the default version is of course the latest Icelandic 2026 production version. And from here, you can then hide the menu, or then you can click from here if you like to make it permanently visible. Of course, it'll eat up some of your screen space if you use it. So normally I think it's the most convenient to look it that way. Next, let's go through the actual grouping page, and that is probably the page you are using most frequently. So there are small layout changes if you compare to version 4. for example, now the encounter information, the patient information is moved from the bottom of the screen to the right-hand side of the screen. And here you can select the gender of the patient, the age of the patient in days or years. In the DRG system, always it calculates internally by days, but for convenience, you can give it also by years, so you don't have to calculate it by yourself. Then the discharge status, normally it's end of treatment, mean the patient has been discharged to home or long-term care or what is his or her normal place of living. But then you can say that it's a transfer to another acute care unit or if the patient is dead. Then the length of stay, it's in days, and that is in cross days, meaning that if you are over one night, it's or stay in hospital, it means 2 days. So the first days and the admittance days and the discharge days are always calculated separately as 1 day. Then you can key in the cost per patient. It doesn't change anything in the grouping, and then you can put some comments if you'd like to include those in your, for example, printout or saved case. But let's start then with the grouping. So the most important thing is the diagnosis that you enter from here, and the change it that you always enter it at the top of the table. So you can do it in different ways. If you recognize the codes by heart, for example, E119 is the type 2 diabetes without complications, you can key it directly and it will be added to the case. And as you saw before, I can clear everything from here. It says that you are not getting any actual DRG. It's a failure because you are missing or unknown primary diagnosis. But as soon as I enter the primary diagnosis, it automatically updates. This star here means that this is the main diagnosis. When you have multiple diagnoses, you can change the secondary diagnosis to primary diagnosis and see what happens or edit the case. Of course, you don't have to remember the codes by heart, but you can use the find functional even from this magnifying glass or clicking from the text. And then you end up in the code search window that is very similar to the version 4. It's only a little slight layout changes because now the filters are on the left-hand side of the pane. But from here, you can you can use a code find functionality if you'd like to find something, so it searches by the starting letters of that code, and then you can add it to the case by selecting it from that table and clicking on the add button. And yet another way of finding it's of course the text search. If you'd like to find out what includes salmonella, you can enter it and then select it and click on add. And now that you have a different diagnosis, it gives you a different DRG group. And if you'd like to see what happens if you swap some other diagnosis to principal diagnosis or main diagnosis, or click on the star column, and it will be moved from the first diagnosis to the first diagnosis. And as you can see, it in many cases changes the actual DRG group, not in all the cases. Then from here, you can see the status of this information. This check mark means it's used in grouping, so it says that the principal diagnosis has been used, the age has been used, and they are correct. If I enter something that is not correct, it gives you an unknown code, and here is an exclamation mark, and if you move your mouse pointer on top of that, it says what's the problem with that. It says it's an unknown diagnosis. There are some other cases also that can be wrong in a clinical coding. For example, if I take some medicine code and put it as a principal diagnosis, it cannot be used as principal diagnosis, and it's said it here, ATC drug code as a principal diagnosis symptom. And also you get, of course, some arrow group as a result. So that's not good clinical coding. And by clicking on this cross, it will be delete. You can delete the principal diagnosis or whatever diagnosis, click from here. And this CC means that it makes the case complicated. So it's a complications and comorbidities. But let's change the case in that way. Let's put a normal delivery case. Then let's put it this way. And let's put it that way. So now it's a normal delivery, and let's remove some other diagnosis codes. And so the complications and comorbidities can be found by using the specific complications analysis, and it's included, unlike in version 4, in the Find Diagnosis panel. So you can here check this mark, filter diagnosis that complicate the mind diagnosis, that is the normal delivery. If I click it, I get a listing of the possible secondary diagnosis that can make that principal diagnosis complicated, and then I can take it from here. And now you can see that it's marked with CC, it's MCC, it's major complications and comorbidities, or CC, it's a normal complications and comorbidities. In the Icelandic version, there are no changes in the DRG, but both major complications and complications results in complicated group, as you can see from here.
Can I
Yes.
stop you? I just want to, because I think this is a new function. I think this function is great. I'm going to ask in Icelandic, bara hvort allir séu átt að sjá því að einmitt þarna setur hann inn fæðing, og þá, ég veit ekki hvort þið tók eftir, þá fór það í DRG-flokk, við sáum það neðst á skjánum, fæðing leggöng án aukakvilla, og svo leið, og svo getur hann leitað þarna að sértækum aukakvillum fyrir rauninni þessa aðalgreiningu, og sem veldur því að viðkomandi lega fari þá í fæðingum leggöng með aukakvillum. Þær greiningar sem hafa áhrif á það hvort þetta fer í þungan DRG-flokk eða rauninni léttan með eða án aukakvillum. Þannig að þetta er mjög góður fítus upp á það þegar þeir eru að skoða kóðunina á legunum. Getur notað þennan fítus til þess að rýna það. Sorry, Jussi, I just wanted to emphasize this, this new action in the VisualDRG. It's actually very nice.
Thank you. Now there's one more thing that is a little more complex complication, because there's a thing called optionally complicating diagnosis. So there's a short list of diagnoses that don't make the case complicated by a single diagnosis, but they need another diagnosis that make it complicated if used together. So I can select here another diagnosis, and as you can see, it's not marked by MCC or CC, so it doesn't make the case complicated by itself. But if I click on Add, it asks me if I'd like to add the first diagnosis and second diagnosis that together make the case complicated. And if I add those, it becomes complicated. But if I take the other away, it's not complicated. So that's perhaps the most complex logic rule in DRG system. So the optional complication, meaning that you need two specific diagnoses to make the case complicated, and you can find from here the different variations or different combinations of the diagnoses that are needed to make the case complicated. And now it's also again complicated, but you need those two. Then for procedures, of course, you can find the procedures from here. And if it's a cursor section, for example, I remember it's MC something, or then you can find it by using the text search and add it to the case. And now it's cursor section. And the functions here are very similar with the ones that you can use with the diagnosis search. And then you can see these specific fields. These are the new DRC internal filters. For example, different procedures have different kind of properties, and you can then select it by those filters also. And as I said, these are internal things in the DRC system, but they can be used also as a filter for diagnosis and procedures, and you saw the same are here. For example, by MGC group, you can select whatever you can find from that main diagnosis category, and it can be used as a filter. So there are quite many functions from where you can how you can select and find the correct clinical coding, and then you get feedback what is wrong, what is used in the grouping, and this OR means that this is the operating room procedure in the DRC system, and it may affect the logic how it groups. And also the procedures can make the case complicated, but that list is fixed. It doesn't depend on the primary diagnosis. Now it complicates that one, complicates the case. So if I take these away, I can then, it's still complicated, but now the complication comes from the procedure code, not from the secondary diagnosis code.
There's one hand raised, you see, Sigurður.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you for that. It's very interesting. I was just wondering from the clinical side, if you make a primary diagnosis like vertex delivery, and then you have a short list of common complications, is that some kind of a learning curve of the system, or is this list decided by clinicals and put in there? Or is it a sort of digital hierarchy that is built in the system that decides this? Because normally we don't associate normal delivery with salmonella, for example. So it's kind of strange. And also, I think you said there was no difference in the weight, the coding weight, if there was a normal complication or a major complication. Is that correct?
There are actually two questions. So when you find the complications from here, if you filter it, it says that all these secondary diagnoses can make the case complicated, even though those are not actual complications of delivery, but if the patient happens to have a secondary comorbidities. And then from here, you can, I don't read that good Icelandic, but what is the MDC group number for?
It's 14.
That
it's
one.
number 14, yes.
Yeah. So if you select that filter, then it of course filters also the complication list to the things that are related to that delivery. So you can tool you can probably use. It makes more sense, and now it makes it complicated. Then the other thing is that does the major complications or complication make any difference in the weight? You can see the DRC weight over here, and it doesn't, because in the Icelandic system you don't have a specific group for major complications and complications. So, and of course the same DRG has exactly one weight independently of others. It's just bound to the DRG.
Okay.
So Seuri, yeah, it doesn't matter if you use MCC, major complications or just complications,
No.
do not differ from it. And also regarding, because I think Seuri, you were asking like how are these lists of diagnoses that are in the CC, the complications. This is part of the rules of the DRG grouper, the Nord DRG grouper, that, and it was created by clinicians, people that have, physicians mostly. Yeah.
So it's no learning curve within the system, no AI or anything like that.
You see, is there any? I don't think so. But no. There's no AI use now in creating the rules in the DRG grouper.
No.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
No, it's okay. It's good.
We are here to answer your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for very good and relevant question. So now we went through the most frequently used page, the grouping page, and there's two more things I'd like to show you. I have shown you the basics, then I'll show you the finding the diagnosis and also the finding of the complicated diagnosis. And that's in the so-called pro version only, but you have the pro version. And here is the optionally complicated diagnosis once more explained, so you can have it from the materials also. And the procedure code is the same, but then let's show the two things is the DRG pricing. For if you click from here, you can see a simple pricing calculation where you have the point price. That means that 1.3 million Icelandic crowns per point. And if you multiply it by weight, you get the actual then the reimbursement value. It's of course very simple calculation. And then you can see also the length of stay limits, and if you have some specific amount of extra payment for days over the limit, you can then put it also perhaps not that much also there. And if you then put a length of stay more than 12 days, and then I can click it, so price on the grouping page closed, and if I put 14 days, now it gives me a mark here. It's length of stay outlier, and if you go to the pricing page, it says that the extra days are added to the price.
And you see, is it possible to print this out, this page?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's over there, yeah. Because many of the smaller hospitals, well, all hospitals in Iceland, especially the smaller ones, that's why they're here, they're using it for tourists. So when they're, when they are having the tourists pay before they leave the country, they often try to create this sheet. And I think somebody emailed me a few weeks back, and we're trying to create this kind of page. So here we have that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true. And also the comment field, it's important here. For example, here you can say that patient from Finland, ID, insurance number, something like that. And then it's included in the printout. Alternatively, you can use copy to clipboard, and then it's, of course, you can paste it to your email. It puts it in a text format, but it's all the fields are included there. Included also the DRG weight and price if you have included the price. But that was a very good question. Then the final thing here is the comparison. So if you'd like to compare different DRG versions, for example, when next year comes, there are no changes in that group. Sorry, I went it through. But if you have, for example, let's reset it to, here is the clear all and 40. Then you can see that there are some groups or the diagnosis codes that may end up in a slightly different group depending on your DRG version. And then you can make comparisons about that and change the version. What are you But of course, in the Icelandic version, I see that there are not that major changes and there are not that many groups changed from year to year.
No, there are very few.
Yeah, that's good for maintaining the system and understanding it. Okay, now we're going through the first page and let's go to the logic page. There are two ways to examine the DRC logic. The rules, why and how does it group to just this group. There's a grouping rule ID in the grouping page from here, and this is a link. When you open it, you get a window that says that what are the internal logic rules that are matched because of this DRC grouping. It says that it belongs to this MDC group, major diagnosis category, and the diagnosis that is used here is this one. Then it says it's a conservative inpatient, meaning that it's not operation room patient. And then it says that it's goes to diagnosis category. These are the internal intermediate classifications in the new DRG logic system, benign prostatic hypertrophy, and it's that diagnosis that matches that rule, and you can simply see it. But that is for the current DRG only. From the grouping logic, you go from that one. You can then go the way around, so you can first select whatever DRG group you will see, and these are grouped by MDC, so it's a tree. The first level is the major diagnosis category, and then you can open it by clicking from Bombri's mark here, and you can see all the DRG groups that are inside of that MDC. And then you can click on some DRG group, and then you see all the different rules why a case goes to this here in the right hand side. For example, in order to go to that DRG group, it must have a valid ICD-10 code. It can be whatever MDC. There is no requirement for so-called principal diagnosis property, but it must be surgical procedure. And here you can list all the surgical procedures. Of course, this is a listing containing all possible ones, not just the one that are related to that principal diagnosis group. And then you can see it must have a procedure of normal delivery, and this is then a more restricted list, and you can try it out. If I add that to the grouping, and if I go to the, let's see then, MDC, that's not a good, but let's find something from MDC 14 from here. Now it goes to that kind of group, and then you can also see the logic and also the conservative inpatient. So it says that this procedure codes means it conservative inpatient. So it's a procedure that can be done also outside of the procedure operating theater, but it must be a delivery, this admission. So that gives you tools to browse through the DRG logic. And you can take whatever you can also find from here. Using the text search, a particular DRG, or then you can simply click it from here and you can see so the diagnoses, what are needed in order to be grouped in this group, and you can then try out how does it work and how does it group when you add that to the case, and it adds that to the grouping page. And that function, yes.
Can I stop? Yeah. Can you show again the window that you with the diagnosis category for that group? You just opened a small window of, yeah, that one. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that if somebody is looking at a special DRG group, that you can then, like in this group, you can see these are the ICD codes that put inpatient visit into this DRG group, and you can export it into Excel if you want to, like.
Yes, you can.
And yeah, just for practical, if you're just going through and trying to harmonize your coding for certain specialties, you sort of can use this to help you find the codes that you want to use when coding certain things, certain patients or specialties.
Yes, that's very true. That's a good point. And in many windows, including this one, there are buttons, the copy to clipboard, where you can copy. It's a tab separated and you can paste it to the Excel table or Word document, although you can export it as a file. And then it's exported to Excel and there's nothing specific. And here is an example. How does it then look like? And you can print it out or save for your own reference. And then you can group it by MDC, or then you can show it in a linear list, and that actually it's a more logical and right way to look at the DRG system, but it's not convenient. So it's one huge list without the MDCs. And as you can see, there can be multiple rules for the same DRG. For example, here, this is first rule and the second rule, and there are different options how the case can be grouped to that specific DRG group. And you can also find it from this view a little different way. If you select something, for example, that is a very specific group, there's actually 54 different rules that can lead to this group, and it shows here. So there are rule number 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are of course different kind of combinations of what are the diagnosis properties, but that is perhaps one of the most complex cases. Normally there are not that many. In very many cases there's only one rule that can lead to that diagnosis group, and in this is a very typical 2 different rules. That one or that one can lead to that specific DRG group. And here, if you'd like to put it full screen, you can click from here and then you can return it to the side window, and you can print it out or copy also these rules for your reference, or if you have some specific questions to us or to the Nordic Case Mix Center. So that was the DRG logic part. Then we have the weight tables, and this is the next main menu. So it's from here or from here. You can go to the weight tables, and it lists all the weight tables that are uploaded for the Icelandic versions. And let's say the 26 Lego Victor, and here is a description of it, and you can download it as a text file or Excel file, or then you can open it. This is one open weight table, and if you click here, it opens here, and you can then sort it. How would you like to see it? For example, by DRG groups. You need a group code, the group name, the actual weight and length of stay, maximum limit, and you can browse the table, or then you can sort it by weight to see the most expensive DRG groups at the top, or then you can also filter it, for example, by weight, show me only the weights that are above some limit, let's say about 5, and the length of stay limit goes the same way, and then you then combine the filtering and sorting functionalities. So it's the reference for the weight table. You cannot, of course, edit it because it comes from national sources. Then we have this is the filtering and sorting functions for your reference. Then we have the datasets. I don't know if you use the datasets. I show it very briefly because you have to have the admin rights to upload your own dataset. But if you have uploaded something, you can open it from here, and you can open the DRG dataset by clicking on this button. There are, for example, some demo datasets you can use and see how the cases go, and it opens in a table. Each and every line here in the table is one case. It can be inpatient or outpatient depending on the length of stay, and you can scroll the table horizontally or vertically. Normally those they are quite large, and the columns are here the case ID. Then there are up to 20 different diagnosis codes, and if you have double coding, it's the asterisk and dagger. But those double coding or diagnosis pairs are not very common, not even in Finland. Then you have a procedure codes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can select, for example, if you like to see all the 20 in the table, even though those are mostly empty, you can then expand the table from the columns menu and view and clicking number of diagnoses and procedure columns. And now you can see much more columns if you happen to have that many secondary diagnoses in some cases. Then you have the DRG that has been grouped, the MDC code, the return code, and then you can have a double grouping if you compare two annual versions. From the datasets, if you, one more thing I forgot to show you. You can also, I open the dataset, you can sort and filter by different diagnoses. If I select, for example, everything that starts with letter R, I can give it from here, and of course the same functionality goes to whatever is the filtering criteria you use. And now it filters only the cases starting with R. And then here at the actions column, you have the open the DRG grouping, from where you can open that particular case. And now you can see it filtered so that it starts with R, and you can show through the cases. And from here you can see the actual name of the dataset name. It's just a name for that group of the cases, and you can go it through by here the next button. And also you can edit the cases. You can save your own demonstration or training cases or some special cases. And if you edit it, you can then save the encounter case to the case dataset. But yet sorry?
I think it was just...
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you'd like to upload, you can import the dataset. You must send some owner from your organization. I put that Arna for you, and I delete it then because I have to select its primary grouping Iceland, and then I select the file, and the file must be tab separated. And so now I'm putting here, let's say I have here some Iceland demo data. This is just random data, 1000 lines. And now it's selected. I click on import. So it imports the file and it groups it internally. And now it says 1000 rows grouped. And now I can have the cases from the demo Iceland number 3, and of course it can be production data also. And now you can go through the dataset, open it, and for example you can then filter all the cases where grouping result, the return code is some arrow code, and look what kind of problems there may be in your data. And you can filter it from the filter pane, and then only the return codes that are other than 0, that 0 is no problem, is open, and then you can go it through. And for example, see here, missing principal diagnosis, obviously, as in here. And there's some other things that are problems in the data, but it can be used for data quality checks, for example.
We have not been using this function. It's interesting, and I'm wondering, like, if I would upload a file, would all the Icelandic users then see that file, and maybe other users in other countries, or how is it? No.
There are different settings. I can show it to you once more. If you upload here import dataset, it says a private, it is a own organization, or it's a public. The private means that only you can see it. The own organization sees that only the Icelandic users will see it, and the public means that it's, for example, demos, anyone can see it, but it's then read only. So you can select it to make it private or own organization.
But I cannot like just choose a few users that can see it with me. Just
no,
like,
that is not possible.
No.
But if you'd like to have that kind of functionality, we can put it our wish list.
Yeah, it's just I'm just thinking how we could use this, but it's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then you can browse the data set. I've already shown you that functionality. Then there are only a few things left. Let's go to the downloads page, datasets. The next one is downloads from the main menu. You can download a certificate or documents. I'll upload this training material also here as a PDF, and of course you can share it by email, but you can select, for example, check our certificate for Nordic Case Mix Center from here, and gradually there can be new documents, and if you'd like to share some Icelandic documents, you can simply upload it. It's the admin user can upload those. Then you can take DRG classifications. You can take it, for example, the current version as an Excel file, and then you open it. You can select the version, and you have a listing of all the possible DRG groups and their names in the Excel files for your own reference if you need it for some reason. Then there's the third page, is the DRG version comparison, where you can select two different versions, for example 26 versus 23, and then you can click and you'll have yet another kind of file that lists the differences between the two selected versions, and those differences are at the DRG level. It doesn't list individual ICD diagnosis, but you can see here comparison between these selected versions, what are the new groups in the version 26, what are the deleted groups from version 26, and then what are the groups where there are some changes and updates in the names of the DRG groups. So it's a summary of the changes. Then the very final, it's just for information, some status information. From here you can send mail to the support, go to the old production, some links to privacy policy, licenses, our web page, and the user guide starts from here. It's of course available for each and every page, and from there you can select then the theme from the left hand side, for example DRG grouping, and it's enlists what's needed in different kind of fields and how does it actually work, and also how does the search functionality work using grouping results and so on, and also the logic page and complication analysis. For here it's described in more detail how it's used. Then there's just a listing of install groupers and some descriptions what are their changes. This is very technical, but for our reference, if you have any problems, also this, if you have some problems, you can try to reset local cache. It saves up some disk space if you have disk space problems. And finally, the listing of the weight tables that are uploaded to the system. And now we have gone through also the downloads and status page and the user guides. I already showed you printing, copying, and exporting functions that exist in almost every window. And you can, just for your information, if someone happens to know Swedish language, you can select it from the login menu, so the text of the menus will be in Swedish, but the DRG groups are in the Icelandic and the diagnose and procedure in English, so it doesn't affect the internals of the DRG system. And we'll continue supporting the old versions up to 5 earlier years, and those are there selectable. And finally, other features, when you stop using it, there's a user button here on the left hand bottom side. If you click on that, there are some links, and finally there are logout button, and by using that you then log out and it goes back to the login screen, and from there you can then simply close the browser.
Could you show them the you logged out the organizational button, the one that I have access to, so
Yeah,
that they
can
can
show
see
it also.
Yeah.
So I'll have to do it this way. First I log in as me, then we go to the organization. I just select the Icelandic. Oh, it's here, and then I log in as organization admin, and now I can see what will happen, how you would see it. Sorry, I logged out. I was too fast in there. But here is the organization button, and here's a listing of the users that are there, and it says who is the admin user, right, that can use the user account management and dataset uploads, expiration time, login count, row count, and then when and who is the first and last logged in event. And then there's some organization settings, the organization name, you can edit it, and default weight and DRG versions. Now it's 26, and for 26 it's the weight tables for each and every what are used. And here are the allowed email domains that can register the users by themselves. I had also, because you are the only admin, I didn't prepare much for that. It's simply as an appendix you have here, the organization management thing.
Thank you.
Finally,
I just wanted to show them that, because I often say I can see how many times you've logged in and if you've not logged in and everything. So so because I'm sort of, many people ask for access but then actually never log in, or might log in once and then never go again. And sometimes in the new year, in the beginning of each year, I sort of go through this and I might take someone out that hasn't been using. So yeah, just for everybody to know that.
Yeah, thank you for clarification. And what will happen next? Then the May 25th will route also the old address, so that it will be going to VisualDRG version 5. Then in September the version 4 cannot be anymore used, and in October, November the new groupers will be created, certified, and updated to VisualDRG for year 27. And also when we get from you the weight tables, those updates will be done when available. So that was what I was presenting. If you have any more questions, it's now good time to ask, or you can send those later.
Yeah, Thank you, Jussi. Always very interesting, and the new functions and features are very nice. So, are there any questions? Einhverjar spurningar? I just want to emphasize, I'm going to say this in Icelandic, Jussi, that að því við varum að tala hérna, að þið getið séð hérna comorbidity sé hvaða sjúkdómsgreiningar geta haft vægi í að setja legu í íþyngjandi flokk, þá vil ég samt bara leggja áherslu á það að við erum þetta bara sem klíníski starfsmönnum bara að reyna að kóða raunveruleikann, en þetta getur hjálpa manni í líka bara þessu svona að læra inn á þetta, þú veist, með aukagreiningarnar, að kóðun á hérna auka sjúkdómsgreiningunum, að já, að þessar í tengslum þegar þessi aðalgreining þá eru þessar hugsanlega að hafa áhrif, geta haft, já, skipta máli í þessu samhengi. Bara til þess að læra inn á það líka, af því það er það sem við vitum allavega hérna við á heilbrigðisgagnum sviði að skráning á sem sagt aukagreiningum, við teljum að hérna það sé vanskráningu að ræða. Þannig að við viljum bara að það sé góð þekjun á að það sé bara svona raunsæ og rétt kóðun á heilbrigðisgögnum, legum og komum bara á Íslandi. Þannig að það er að nýta sér þetta líka til þess. Einhverjar spurningar eða vangaveltur? One last question before we end this session. I went to the webpage at the Directorate of Health on the VisualDRG, and I see that I was able to upload our last VisualDRG session from November 2024. So I'll try to switch out and put in this one instead, the newest one from this session. So that will be on the website. I will send an email to the group when I've done that, so everybody will get a notice of the recording of the session. Oh, now it's 1300. So no questions. If not, just thank you very much, Jussi, and hope you have a wonderful summer. We'll be in touch.
Yes.
In the fall at least. Yes.
Yes.
Takk allir bara fyrir komuna.
Takk.
Og vona
Hej då.
gangi ykkur vel. Já, bye bye.